Back in the workshop again for another episode. If you're new to this channel, my name is Tom Cheesewright. I am upgrading my homemade electric car. I converted a BMW Z3 to electric during lockdown with my daughter. We're now doing a series of upgrades. First of all, mechanical, increasing power and range, tidying things up, automating charging. And then secondly, cosmetic. Swapping the body, the rusty Z3 body that came with the car, for a Tribute Automotive Z300S kit, making it look like a retro Maserati style 50s Italian Barchetta thing. No badges, no replicas, just cool. So if you like that sort of stuff, please do like and subscribe. It's time to get cracking. What's in the box, Tom? Let's have a look. It's a load of newspaper. Ah, must be my birthday. It's a Vauxhall Zafira power steering pump. There we have it, a particularly filthy Vauxhall Zafira power steering pump as required. So this comes with very simple connections: your ground, your live, or your 12 volts, and then a bunch of connections in there, one of which you connect on ignition, one of which you connect when you want it to start, and then you obviously just turn them both off and it stops again. I'll give it a proper cleanup. I've given it a bit of a wipe down with some of this newspaper for now. I'll give it a proper cleanup before it goes in the car. I'd like it to look a bit swisher than the one that's in there at the moment, which is frankly a state. But you can see, if I bring over the focus unit, they're very similar. Focus unit's fractionally taller, same base really, but completely different mountings. You could probably mix and match, I suspect. You could probably unhook a bunch of bits and swap them over, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just stick with this one and work out some mounts for that. As you'll be very quickly able to see, because of the way that these mounts on the Zafira model come out at an angle, unlike the Ford ones that go straight down, my sheet is not going to work, because if I bend over, no, don't go there. If I bend over the metal at this line, then my whatever this is, my little footy bit off the rubber here is going to stick out beyond my sheet. So I'm going to have to completely revise my thinking with regards to a mount, because even if I suppose I could rotate it that way and then shuffle my, actually, no. See, this is live thinking, what you're witnessing here. That actually works quite well. This would drop down neatly here. New approach. Bit of cardboard aided design. Been mucking around with the idea of using some strip bent at a couple of 45 degrees to go round these funny angled pieces and give me a cradle to weld to. The alternative, I've got some fairly thin walled box here. Well, say thin walled. Is that about 1 mil, 1.2, something like that? Could make some little angle brackets out of that to take it down to a flat and then give me something easy to work with. Or, yeah, I don't know what the or is. Two options basically at the moment. So I'm thinking probably this strip, and then maybe use some of this, come off at an angle down to the plate here, mount it something like that, so you've got some strength, the weight's taken down into that plate, and then tie it onto the corner there for a bit of extra strength, or stabilization really. And then of course this is all going to get some extra stabilization as well. Yeah, tricky one to mount with those funny angles. I got a bit carried away and forgot to film this. I've drilled a hole, a 6mm hole. Actually, I drilled an 8mm hole, welded it back up and drilled the proper 6mm hole. Drilled a 6mm hole in this piece of bar, then cut a V shape out at an angle with the hope that that'll make it easier to make a bend, a straight bend in the bar along that line. Let's find out. Lock my casters. Still not easy to bend. I have to take a bit more out of that. Now it's bending. I'd heat it, but I don't have a good map torch or anything, or a torch really of any sort. That's kind of closed the gaps. That's not going to bend anymore without a little more cutting, but sort of might be getting to the right level. Yeah, actually don't want to bend it any more than that, so mark out another cut, make another groove, bend again, mark out another hole. So that's sort of getting there, but the angles aren't quite right yet. These are a bit too vertical on both sides. Yeah, there's no way it's going to focus. But this is part of a set of tungsten carbide tools. It's the only thing I actually bought at the kit car show. Company called Permagrit, British company. Not quite sure what I think of that yet. Meant to last a long time, but you can already tell it's lost a lot of its grit. Not very perma. Although they made pretty decent work of cutting that slot out, because I figured I'm going to need a little bit of slop in that middle connection. I don't know how much longer that's going to last cutting through mild steel. We shall see. By the way, the set includes a variety of different bits. Figured the cutting wheel might be useful, and these might be useful for tidying up carbon fibre, fiberglass when we're cutting through that. We shall see. After much, well, let's be honest, twatting it with the hammer and some bending, it's kind of fitting. Glad I cut the slot in there, definitely needed that. It's probably going to settle about the middle of that slot though. want to make a few more tweaks to this, but we can level that up a little bit. That needs to bend around a little bit more that way, so this will come square again, and then we can work out where to put our bend for the final part. It's not very good, is it? Took a lot of bending with a giant adjustable spanner and a big hammer to make it fit, and look, all these are distorted out of shape because it doesn't really fit. It's not going to do them any good in the long run. I think I need to go back to the drawing board again. This is an awkward sod. This is why I wanted to do this in CAD. I'm thinking, and it's a bit of a heavier option, but it'll be much neater. I'm thinking use some of that thin wall box to make some little angle brackets that sit under here, and then run a piece of 20 by 20 round, and then drop off to the mounting points from there. I can at least make a start on that today. Not very tidy yet, but a bit of slicing with an angle grinder and a little bit of bending. We have a nice little angle bracket that you can get ignore the gap at the back, that you can get a nut on with your fingers once all the sharp edges are tidied up at least. And then some 20 by 20 box can go there, 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 and then just straight down to mounting. So I'll try and get 2 more of these cut up today, and then I'll probably have to call it a day. But back again later in the week. Not the prettiest things in the world, but functional. A little bit of a tidy up, weld them up, then bolt them onto the power steering pump, and then weld on some 20 by 20. That's an old offcut, probably not, well, I might be able to use that, we shall see. It's quite a thick wall, thicker than I would like, but it's what I've got. So, next time I'm here, which will be in a couple of days, not that you care, I'll get that done. There are no new ideas, even ideas you've had yourself. So I've just, well, when I was here a couple of days ago, I made these brackets up. Look what I 3D printed 2 years ago on exactly the same idea. So might be able to reuse some of this box. I'm going to cut those nasty welds off and redo them, but it might be the right lengths, we shall see. Bit of recycling then, just tidied these bits up. I'm going to give them a quick blast on there just to square things up nicely. But we can see that we've got plenty of metal there to secure each of our 3 brackets to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this one set in at a nice right angle, and then I'm going to weld this bracket to it and this bracket to it, and then we can set the exact position for this and this bracket and tack them together, and pull it all apart, weld it up, and then trim off any excess. Brief interlude because my mains angle grinder has died for reasons that should be obvious. I've been meaning to rewire this for a week or so. Don't know what's caused it, could just be a fuse, but I might just take the time to sort out the wiring while I sort out the fuse, see if I can get it up and running again. Quick check of the brushes. Yep, plenty of meat on there. Change of plan. So this, for the first time, is you getting a sense of what the engine bay is going to look like when everything's in. Battery box is there, high voltage junction box is there, charger's there, and with all that in, our power steering pump actually doesn't fit where I was going to put it without modifying the inverter bracket or really sort of wedging it in. Whereas, in a complete reversal of my original plans, it does fit this hard hole over here. Now, need to make sure there's room for the outlet of the, or outlet or inlet of the cooling for a 90°, but it can come forward a little bit and clear that. Maybe come down a little bit to clear that, and to make sure there's plenty of space. But then actually our noisy bits are packaged together again, and we could maybe consider boxing them in. So I'm going to finish making up that bracket and then weld it in under there, and that I think will be really neat. Means that our hydraulic pipes, hydraulic lines can be much shorter, just tuck in straight down there, and they come off at roughly the right angle as well with it mounted in there. You can see that the high pressure outlet's there, the low pressure inlet's there, so they'll literally be coming off at this angle. Just some short lines that you need to go down. You need to route them carefully past the steering rod, but they'll just drop in. They'll just drop in underneath the battery box down there. So yeah, that is serendipitously tidy, given how often I've screwed up this mount. Doing all this, I remembered that actually I did exactly the same thing last time around, and ended up moving the power steering pump then as well. We are doomed to repeat our mistakes, or at least it seems I am. This is where we're up to. Cleaned it up a bit, tacked some uprights on so that it can now sit in there. I actually think I probably want to make this bolt in and out rather than just weld it on, which is very tempting right now because it would save some time. Reason being, if I need to get in to anything down here, you know, pipe work or steering joint, etc., actually getting the power steering pump out of its cage is quite awkward. It'd be much easier if I could just undo a couple of bolts. That said, once it's in the cage, getting those bolts undone is going to be very difficult. Maybe I do just weld that in for now, maybe put a third mounting point in when we've got some sort of torsion bar. I could just tack that in, couldn't I? And then we can move on, and I can worry about it when the next thing's in. Yeah, let's tack that in. So I'll let that cool before I drop any rubber parts in. But tomorrow we can clean it up a little bit, drop in our brake vacuum pump, drop in our power steering pump, and then start on the battery box. That'll wrap it up for this episode. Power steering pump in, or near enough in. Time to move on. The last bit of working out the mountings in here before we can actually pull the 300 off the road and start swapping stuff over, which is how we're going to mount the battery box, the charger, high voltage junction box. Maybe start to think about some wiring and plumbing layout as well. So a couple more episodes before we do the full swap, but really getting there. I need some new gloves. I'm not saying your likes and subscribes help with that, but please do like and subscribe. Maybe they will one day. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that.